Please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the July 31st, 2019 special session. 2 items for individual consideration. 2.1, review and approval of superintendent's tentative budget and taxes. Mr. Barnes?
So a couple weeks ago, you approved for advertisement the 1920 operating budget as well as the millage rates. In that ad, you advertised a notice of budget hearing, which is what you do whenever there is not a budget increase in the upcoming year or not a tax increase in the upcoming year. And I'll tell you a little bit about that and why that is in just a minute. The other thing that you advertise is a summary budget, which is basically all of your funds, so everything from general fund to your capital outlay funds, and basically what the summary of revenues, expenditures, and projected fund balance is for each of those items. And then the other thing you advertised was a capital outlay ad. In the summary budget, you advertised 3 millage rates. And what I'm going to ask you to do later is to go ahead and approve those millage rates for me to report those to the property appraiser for the upcoming year. And that's what will be mailed out on the trim notices. Okay. So in those ads, and I'm just going to read a brief statement. The taxing authority is the School Board of Madison County, Florida, and the total millage rate to be levied is 6.0950. And it's less than the rollback rate computed pursuant to section 200.065 parent 1 Florida statutes by 4.12%. So what that means, basically what the rollback rate is, and what that means is that based on the current tax rolls, it's what you would have to levy to generate the same amount of tax revenue that you generated last year. So last year, if you last year's total board proceeds that you generated was $4,746,000 from your millage levy. This year you're projecting to generate $4,594,000. So it's about $200,000 less in taxes that you're going to generate this year based on the new millage rate. Okay. So what that means again for your citizens and the people that you're taxing is that this year, you're actually going to generate less revenue because the millage rates are lower, and because the state is actually going to make up the difference with state sources. So most of the state sources come from sales tax revenue. Mm-hmm. So from sales tax revenue around the state, it's collected in Tallahassee, and then it's distributed out to the districts in the form of the FEFP. So again, the rollback rate, so this year basically the rollback rate is 4.12% less than what it would have generated last year. So is there any questions on any of that? Okay. So I wanted to talk to you real quick just about the budget, and then we can enter the public hearing portion. We don't have anybody in the audience, so but you still have to open it up for hearing. Right. And then close it. So in your summary budget ad, basically what you have, and the fund that you're most concerned with is your general fund. Because that's usually when you talk about fund balance and things like that, that's your operating fund. That's how you run things day to day. That's where the majority of your salaries come from and so on. That's how you keep your lights on. This year we're projecting total revenue of $21,185,071. We're projecting a transfer in from your capital outlay funds and other funds of $510,000. So the way that money comes in from those other funds is in your food service fund. You're allowed to charge that fund indirect cost. In your federal programs, you're allowed to charge those funds indirect cost, so it'll come through there. You also have the ability to charge your maintenance salaries as well as your property casualty insurance to your local millage, to your local capital improvement fund. So that's where that $510,000 comes from. If you look at your total revenues and balances, that's $22,847,000. Your total expenditures are $21,444,665 with a projected ending fund balance of $1,402,424. That's at the end of June 30th, 2020. If you look in the general fund column and you look about 6 numbers down, you'll see the number $1,152,018. That's where we're projecting this year's fund balance to end up. So you're seeing an increase in your fund balance is what we're projecting for this coming year. So that's based on the current staffing model as well as the current budget that's been built for y'all that will be implemented in the system. The one thing I will say about budgets is it's a plan. The thing that will support that plan is your enrollment for students. So your staff knows the importance of monitoring what that enrollment looks like and maintaining appropriate staff to meet those numbers. And again, personnel makes up about 74 to 76% of your budget. So if you run into issues with the number of students that you have or your FTE or you have an FTE shortfall, staffing there are other places in the budget to work from. I've built some contingencies in there, but if it's a drastic change, then staffing will probably be impacted. So, are there any questions about the summary budget or anything that's been presented to you so far?
Any questions for Mr. Barnes?
While y'all are thinking, I did want to mention one other major change. In years past, you have received a funding source from the state called PICO. That's the Public Education Capital Outlay Fund. That is tax revenue that comes through the state to the school district for the use for maintenance, most of the maintenance operations. They do have some other areas, but they haven't been funded in a number of years. This year, that funding has gone away. You received $0 in PICO funds. So your sole source of maintenance money for this year is your local capital improvement funds, the 1.5 mils that you're going to approve later.
I'm glad you mentioned the importance of sticking to the staffing table, because that's something we have to be very aware of.
So if y'all have any questions, and if not, then I can close my part and then you can open it up for hearing and move through your motions. Okay. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. We appreciate what you're doing. All right, do we have a motion to approve the RLE at 3.8470?
I make the motion for the RLE at 3.8470.
We have a motion by Mr. Alfred, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Daniels. Any questions, discussion? By a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? Becky, 4-0. Do we have a motion to approve the discretionary .748?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the discretionary .748.
We have a motion by Mr. Daniels, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Bell to approve the discretionary at .748. Any discussion or questions? By a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? Ms. Becky, 4-0. Do we have a motion to approve the capital outlay 1.5?
Madam Chair, I make the motion to approve the capital outlay 1.5.
We have a motion by Ms. Bell, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Alfred. Any questions or discussion? By a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? Becky, 4-0. Do we have a motion for the approval of the superintendent's 2019-2020 budget?
I make the motion to approve the superintendent's 2019-2020 budget.
We have a motion by Mr. Alfred, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Bell. Any questions or discussion? By a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? Becky, 4-0. Our final hearing will be September 9th.
Excuse me, look up my note up.
Oh, okay. We'll open now for public hearing. And we'll make a note that we don't have anyone in the audience tonight. Our final hearing will be September 9th, 2019 at 6 o'clock.
Okay, we got other items on the agenda. Do we need to adjourn or can we just go on in there?
I would say continue.
Okay.
We'll continue with our meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate what you're doing, Mr. Barnes. Under items for individual consideration, 2.2 personnel, Ms. Joseph.
Okay, thank y'all for letting me present this during this meeting because we're trying to get school started and things have really been going well. And so we've got a few things that have come up because the teachers will return on Monday and we want as many as possible to be officially in place before they got here rather than approve them after they spent a day on campus. And so your first page is your personnel changes. We have recommendations, some resignations, some terminations, some resignations, some leave of absence, and some transfers. And I recommend approval of the list.
Do we have a motion to approve the personnel?
I make the motion to approve the personnel.
We have a motion by Ms. Bell, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Daniels. Any questions or discussion? By a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? Becky, 4-0. Excuse me. 2.3, turnaround school supplemental services.
We've got some more than personnel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Within the personnel, we did have some staff changes in places, and so we've got some positions to fill that we need to fill. But one position that we're asking to fill, we're gonna pull, and I'll explain it to you. We've got one in there to fill a Medicaid paraprofessional because we are getting a student that need a one-on-one. But looking at our staff, we were able to shift people around, and so we do not need to fill that position, but we had placed it in the packet already. So we will, am I correct?
We are going to have to add that position to the staffing table. We're going to move the position from Greenville staffing table to Central School staffing table. And that should come Monday if I can get the staffing tables completed tomorrow.
Greenville staffing table to Central.
Yes, the situation in Greenville, they don't have enough students to quantify their pre-K program.
Right.
So they're going to reallocate their pre-K teacher to another grade level. So that leaves that pre-K para. So we're going to transfer that pre-K para and position to the Central School. Once that person comes to Central School, Ms. Dixon can make a determination on who is going to be attached to that one-on-one child.
So we're approving the position from Greenville to Central
Correct.
with the teacher as well as an aide.
Paraprofessional.
With just the
not
para,
teacher.
not the teacher.
The teacher staying.
Right. The teacher's gonna stay there.
What that's going to allow us to do is to freeze a vacant position in Greenville and slide the teacher that's there right now into that position.
Right. And would you explain again, Mr. Stallnaker, why we're doing this?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
We're making
Just so the audience will know.
Close the class, start back.
Yeah. Just so the audience who's listening will be aware of what happened.
Okay. We're making these changes because the student or the student numbers in Greenville's pre-K program do not warrant a pre-K program. We only have 2 VPK and 2 regular ESC pre-K. So we're going to transition those regular ESC pre-K to Central School. Greenville does have 1 teaching vacancy. We're going to freeze that vacancy. We're going to slide the teacher from pre-K into that position so we don't have to fill or hire a new person. The para in pre-K at Greenville is going to be transferred to the Central School as well as that person off of the staffing table. So Greenville's non-instructional staffing allocation will be reduced by 1 paraprofessional.
We are going to move a pair from Greenville to Central.
Correct.
Any questions for Mr. Stallnaker?
Bottom line, the class only had 4 students. Pre-K requires a full-time teacher and a full-time para. We cannot operate a program with a full-time teacher and a full-time para with 4 students.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Stallings.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion to move a pair from Greenville to Madison County Central School?
Is to fill these positions. We want to advertise for these positions listed, and we had put one on there to advertise for the Medicare position. We're not going to do that because we feel that.
What motion?
Okay, the motion is to fill the positions that's listed in your packet.
Okay, fill those positions. Do we have a motion to fill the positions in the packet right now?
I made the motion to fill the positions in the packet.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Bell, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Alfred. Any questions or discussion? By a show of hands, all in favor? Oppose? Becky, 4-0. Thank you for that information.
Okay.
2.3, turnaround school supplemental services allocation. Ms. Joseph?
Okay, this is the information that I shared with you at the last meeting because the Central School has just come out of turnaround status and the state has some extra money that they've given to them in a turnaround school supplemental service allocation. So they've got additional $440,000, but their plan for you spending this had to be approved by the board by August 1. Okay, this is their plan, and this is extra money to the district. They cannot purchase any people, any staff in there, and and so we're asking you to approve it.
Mm-hmm. And the plan requirements are on page 9 there. Do we have a motion to approve the turnaround school supplemental services allocation?
I make the motion to approve the turnaround school supplemental services application.
We have a motion by Mr. Alfred, second. Second by Mr. Daniels. Any questions or discussion? I think I'll make a comment here. I feel the need to, and it all revolves around money, to put as much assistance in for the classroom teacher. I know this won't enable us to do that because there's certain guidelines. But I mean, if in the future, if there's, and I realize grants are only temporary. So if we did hire new people, then they would be gone in a year. But I think in order for us to elevate these schools, we're going to have to get as much help as we can, which could be volunteers.
A school improvement specialist from the Bureau of School Improvement will be working with the school, but they just would not, because when this program is over, they want the school to be able to sustain itself. And if we hire additional personnel, we may not be that, be able to sustain it.
One thing that it is doing is with having all the tutoring, maybe that'll help bring the people up. And then that would help the teacher in the classroom.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, they're having Saturday tutoring
Yes.
and like before these major exams, tutoring like the algebra EOC and the civics EOC.
But now it's not mandatory to attend, right? I don't.
It's not mandatory,
But it's made available. Highly encouraged.
Highly
Right.
encouraged, okay?
I would hope we would.
Yeah, take
Encourage
advantage of
them.
it.
But they've got a big piece of parental involvement, and hopefully, if they get the parent engaged, they can
Oh, yes.
encourage the kids to get more engaged.
Oh, amen to that, for sure. All right, any more discussion or questions? By a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? Becky, 4-0. 2.4, memorandum of agreement with Able Trust for high school high tech. Ms. Joseph?
Okay, this is this is the last thing on my agenda for tonight. It's a continuation of a program that's been in the district for a while, and it's housed at the high school. It is mainly a club. It's an extensive club that they work with students with disabilities, and that's how much they're funded.
And that would be Mr. Radel at the high school, wouldn't it?
It's Mr. Radel and Miss Agnew works with the group of kids.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement with the Able Trust for high school high tech?
I make the motion to approve the memorandum of agreement with Able Trust for high school high tech.
We have a motion by Mr. Alfred, second. Second by Mr. Daniels. Any question or discussion? By a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? Becky, 4-0. All right. Superintendent items.
Okay, my item is, one of the things you have on the table is an announcement of the open houses, and I've asked you to add the countywide meeting, which will be at the Central School on August the 9th at 10 o'clock. We're gonna follow by a lunch for all the employees. What's this here is we've got a new little gadget, this little, it's called Peace Jar. It's a one-time payment, and it's ours forever. But what it does, it cuts down on our paperwork, and it's very easy to use. You do a flyer, and you can email it out to the parents, and it's just a zip thing. And for the parents that is not computer savvy, we will have them sign up and have a paper flyer sent home. For your outside entities, for example, if Wild Adventure want to do a flyer, they will go directly through the company, and they will pay the company, and that takes less work on us. But that's what Peace Jar does for them. And so they'll have nice little pretty flyers. Hopefully, you will be added to the list. We're still in the setting up process. So that's Peace Jar, and those announcements are out. Another thing, I need to talk with you about the status of the Boys and Girls Club in case you get a phone call. If you notice, Monday's night, their memorandum of understanding is on the agenda, but our district has applied for the 21st Century Grant, okay, which runs our after-school program. Okay, we will not hear from them until October whether it has been accepted, our proposal have been accepted. But in the past, the Boys and Girls Club have been the recipient of the 21st Century Program, have been running our after-school program. We have not been running it. Somehow we got it, but when they sent us a memorandum of understanding, I called Mr. Kidd, who's over it. I say, Mr. Kidd, do you realize that we've applied for this grant? And he says, well, we've got a 5-year agreement. And so everything put on hold. I called DOE and says, give me some guidance. And so Monday he's coming here, and we're gonna talk through, and we will come with the mutual understanding of where we're proceeding. Okay, with them, they're able to start tutoring the first week of school. We won't be able to start until October, but something favorable will be put out. And the district have not put anything out, and I've told the principals, put everything on hold until Monday. I didn't realize it was a conflict. I did not realize they had a 5-year agreement. And I don't know whether Ms. Rogers realized they had a 5-year agreement when she wrote it.
One thing about it is, parents really do depend on Boys and Girls Club for after-school care, and if it's not starting until October, and school's about to start, and parents may not have it lined up, and nothing against the grant that we're applying for, but years ago, and Ms. Bishop can correct me if I'm wrong, we had that grant.
Yep.
And there were issues that we ended up just sending it back. So if, in my opinion, if the Boys and Girls Club are doing it for us, we should consider it, because that is a big undertaking in the 21st century.
Well, we will meet with Mr. Kidd. He's coming to the office on Monday, and we will come up with a favorable agreement that all parties will benefit from.
Right.
But the bottom line is the students. We want the students served. We want them to be served.
And again, I'm afraid it would be a huge inconvenience. I mean, not inconvenience, just parents would be really panicked with school about to start and not knowing who's going to be the after-school care for them.
Okay. Well, I just want to know, in case you get a phone call, that's what it's about. But we have not canceled anything.
Right.
And I just told them I'll put it on hold until I find out a definitive answer.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Joseph.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's all I have to say.
All right, Ms. Bell? Mr. Alford?
With school about to start, I wish all the teachers a good first week, and good first day, because that pretty much sets the stage for the entire year. And just excited that school's about to start.
Mr. Daniels?
Likewise, wishing all the students and teachers and all personnel a wonderful 2019-20 season.
I've been seeing a lot of the students, and they're actually anxious to get back to school, the ones I've seen, so that's a good sign. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Mr. Alfred, second by Mr. Daniels. All in favor? Opposed? Becky, 4-0. Meeting is adjourned.